What's up guys, my name is Brent Ruiz and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Guys, I have an awesome video for you guys today. As you can see with the cars that I have right next to me. On my right, we have the brand new C8 Corvette, the 2020. And on my left, we have a full-blown exotic supercar hand-built in Italy, the Ferrari 458. Now, I actually have owned one of these cars for 3 years, going on 3 years. This is not mine. My friend Adam, who's right here, let me borrow this car for this introduction because my car is currently getting built. I'm basically turning it into a race car. So if that interests you, please check out previous videos on my channel and subscribe to the channel as well because I'm gonna be releasing the reveal video very, very soon. Fingers crossed. But getting back to the topic of this video, guys, today I'm going to review the C8 Corvette. And when Chevy announced that they would be making the switch from putting the engine in the front to the rear, making this car a mid-engine car, just like this one, that really piqued my interest. Now, on paper, these cars are pretty similar. Guys, this C8 Corvette has a supercar-worthy 0 to 60 time of 2.9 seconds. That's actually 0.3 of a second faster than this thing. This car has a top speed of 194 miles per hour, just 8 miles per hour shy of this one's 202 miles per hour. They're both obviously mid-engine now. They have both naturally aspirated V8s. They both share a really similar weight distribution at 40/60 versus 42/58, both being mid-engine, of course. And they're even almost the same weight, 3,400 versus 3,600. So on paper, these cars are pretty similar, right? Until you get to the price. Guys, the C8 Corvette, if you haven't heard, starts at an insane value of $60,000, actually under $60,000 before any options, compared to a whopping $245,000 that the Ferrari 458 was back when it was still in production. Pretty insane difference in price, but what is the performance difference like? That's what I really want to find out today. And well, I'm kind of going to be using my experience with 3 years of ownership of this car to kind of not really compare because I don't really want to compare them directly, but I'm going to use my experience of what I've had with the 458 and see exactly how the C8 stacks up. So I have the keys to the C8 right here in my hand. I'm going to have this car for a couple days, but hey, before we start the review, we have both of these cars here. Let's freaking race them against each other. There's a difference. .458 is completely stock, by the way. Still sounds really, really good. But yeah, what did we learn there? We learned that, well, the 458 is still pretty fast, but that the C8, hey, it's not that far behind. You can definitely see the clear difference in the speed as we got up to, you know, up to 55 miles an hour. All right, guys, I am super excited to get this drive started. I've heard a lot of good things about this car, especially when you're driving it good and hard. So that's what I'm about to do right now. So during this drive on this canyon road, I am going to focus on these 3 things. Number 1, the steering feel, the handling, the suspension overall. How does it perform in comparison to that of a supercar? With what Chevy did in putting the engine from the front to the back there, right behind me, that really stiffened up the suspension 50% compared to the C7 because the front has a lot shorter steering system now. So that's a 50% change, which is going to increase the handling performance a lot, or at least that's what it's supposed to do. So I'm expecting this thing to carve up this canyon really, really well. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to put a big focus on the transmission. The C8 is equipped with an 8-speed Tremec dual clutch transmission, and no matter what you say, dual clutch transmissions are really supercar territory. And just from my experience of driving this car like normally earlier in the day, this transmission is buttery smooth, and man, sometimes you can't even feel the shift, so I'm excited to try it out when I'm driving it hard. Number three, and probably this is the most important factor out of these three things, how many miles per gallon is the C8 Corvette gonna deliver to me? Just in terms of the raw driving emotion, the whole experience, how is it gonna make me feel? And a big part of that is gonna be the exhaust note. Now this car is equipped with a Z51 package, which means it does have that performance exhaust, which is going to deliver some more sound out of the back of this car. So without further ado, let's get on the road. And after this canyon driving session, we'll chill out a little bit, hit the highway, and talk a little bit more about its everyday features and what can possibly make it a really good daily driver as well. I'm gonna put this straight away into track mode, because that's what you do, and manual mode, by the way. That's what you do when you really want to have some fun. So let's go ahead and take this thing out on this canyon road. Yeah, let's talk about what's powering this car. It is a 6.2 liter, 495 horsepower, naturally aspirated. Thank you, Chevy, for keeping it naturally aspirated. Small block V8, which when you really push it, doesn't sound too bad. So when you put it into track mode, immediately when you take it through a corner, you'll notice that the steering feel is a lot heavier. God, it really pulls out of the corners incredibly well, and that is why the move of the engine from the front to the back helps the handling of this car so much. It is hard to put into words, but hopefully the video is doing it justice. So while the car does not have ceramic brakes, it does have the Z51 package, which increases the size of the Brembo steel brakes. Oh, dude! Oh my God, the handling! It is good. It is really good. The brakes are pretty progressive. They're definitely not as bitey as if it was like a ceramic brake, but by the way, ceramic brakes are not optional at all on this car. They usually save that for the Z06 and the ZR1 variants, which I'm very excited for. But let's see how this car does in this hairpin. Oh my freaking, what is this car? Okay, this is... Oh my God, what the heck, dude? Okay. Okay, this is not right. Oh my... I think I want one. Okay, maybe not this one, but the Z06, when it comes out, have you guys heard? The Z06 is gonna have like over 600 horsepower. It's gonna have a 5.5 liter flat plane crank engine. Guys, it's gonna rev to like at least 8,500 RPMs. It's gonna sound like my 458. Is that scary? And it's gonna start at $85,000? I don't know what it, I don't know how Chevy has done this. Like, oh my God, guys, like this is insane. How is this car in this price bracket? I don't know anymore, guys. I don't know. Guys, I drive this road a lot. It is one of my favorite roads here in Southern California, and this C8 Corvette is going through it. It's carving it up. You can just power through the corners. This car is sticking so well through those sweeping corners, which I love this road for. I'm so impressed so far, guys. What do you guys think about the sound? I'm full throttle through a turn. No traction is being lost whatsoever. And combine that confidence. Like, if you combine that confidence with the brakes, which are pretty good. Not bad, not bad. It's a good steel brake. Oh my God, and the visibility out of the top of this dash is perfect. Brake test, brake test. Oh my God. Okay, dude, what the F? I'm sorry, guys. This is really a lot of fun. So 5,000, 5.5. I shifted there, but we're at 100. I've said this in some of my previous videos when reviewing other cars, but 500 horsepower, okay, it's not fast in a straight line, like comparing to what is out there now. Like, these supercars are just breaking barriers in terms of the sheer speed of them. I always come back to that 500 horsepower mark. It is such a usable amount of power in a road car. You can have plenty of fun. You can use pretty much all of the car on roads like this without having to go to the track, without having to get pulled over every single time you mash the throttle. And it's just more fun when you can use all of the car, right? Like, you can really have fun and not be scared. The suspension is actually a very similar setup to the Ferrari 458. They both have double wishbone suspensions in the front, although the 458 does have a multi-link setup in the rear. So a little bit of an edge to the 458 on that. Just taking a few more corners here, it is not as communicative as the Ferrari or other higher level supercars, but that's completely fine. What you get in this package is absolutely incredible for the price point. So speaking of suspension, let's talk about the ride quality. I'll just say it that especially with the Magnet Ride system that this car is equipped with, the ride quality is definitely a lot better than the 458s. Obviously, it's a 10-year difference in technology, but whereas in the 458 you have a bumpy road mode. Yes, that's actually what Ferrari calls it. You just press a little suspension mode button on your steering wheel and it softens all of the dampers. In this car, you have the Magnet Ride technology, which is always adapting to the road that you're driving on. And obviously it also changes the suspension setup when you switch from tour mode to sport mode to track mode. Great job, Chevy, on making this car not only a great value, but drivability is so accessible in it. Like, oh my gosh. The tires are doing work. Yeah, dude, this car's sick. Oh my God. Oh, dude, all right. I don't know anymore. Overall, guys, my impressions of driving this car, very spirited through this canyon road. I didn't think I'd be saying this about this car, but it has to be one of the most fun experiences I've had. Now, I made a mistake by, like, I shouldn't have compared this to my 458. Like, it's not fair, right? But in a way, like, it can compete with at least the fun that you're getting out of driving it. Like, it's a lot of fun, and driving it on a road like this, it's not far off the 458, guys. It's not far off. And yeah, the 458 is old in today's day and age with the technology, and it's been replaced by far better cars. But like I said at the beginning of this video, when I compared the two on paper and the price difference between the two, even now, the 458, you know, they're still up over like $170,000. God, the value proposition of this vehicle right here is absolutely awesome. And just gotta give a big shout out to Chevy and GM for making this an accessible sports car for so many enthusiasts out there. That's what it's all about, and I really do applaud them on what they've done with this car. All right, I just pulled off So I just noticed a really cool part about the cluster here. If I had another camera, I would show you guys, but anyway, on the dash here where it shows you the temperature of the tires, after that run, the thing that used to say normal in green now says warm in orange. So I guess my tires are up to temperature. Now, one thing that Chevy obviously wanted to improve on this car, given all the problems that they had on the previous generation Corvette in terms of everything like getting way too hot. Just taking a look at the temperatures here after that very spirited run, the temperatures are holding very steady. Yeah, they have increased a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary. And that third radiator, I think, is gonna do really well. I have even heard that in Dubai, Corvettes that are shipped to Dubai, they give you a fourth radiator because it gets so hot out there. So Chevy is really addressing all of the problems that people have complained about in their past models, the past Corvette generations. They have really come out with a great product here, and I cannot wait for that Z06 and the ZR1. I think I might actually be interested in the Z06 given what they're doing to the engine. Oh my God, I cannot wait, guys. So what else do you get with that Z51 $5,000 package? You get better tires. If you don't get the Z51, you get some Michelin all-season tires, but with this package, you get the Pilot Sport 4S, and it's 245 size in the front, 305s in the rear. You also get the performance suspension. It gives you the magnetic ride option, and it is an optional thing to get for about $1,900. I do recommend it because it does give you a lot of options and a lot of flexibility no matter how you're driving the car and no matter where you're driving the car. I think it is worth the $1,900. You also get a better cooling system, which they just added a third radiator to one of the side vents in addition to the two up front. In terms of aerodynamics, you get the front splitter in the front and the awesome rear spoiler in the back, which looking out the back of this window here looks pretty awesome. I do think having that wing on this car makes the look of it. I've seen some and compared some side-by-side C8s with wing and no wing, and I do think, since I'm not the biggest fan of the rear of this car, the way that it looks, I think with that wing on it, it does look a lot more proper. So that's just another reason why you should definitely go for that Z51 package if you're gonna buy this car. So I hear a lot of people always comparing this car to straight up supercars. Like, well, I have done that a little bit in this video. But you know, they're comparing it to Ferraris, to R8s, to Lambos. But I haven't really heard many people comparing this to more standard sport cars or luxury sports cars like an AMG C63 or C63S, the Audi RS5, the M4, those cars. And this car offers more performance at a lower starting price. For example, the C63S starts before any options at like $78,000. The RS5 is like $75K. The M4 starts at $70,000 before any options. That's a base MSRP price. And that's all in comparison to this at $60,000, under $60,000. The value of this car is insane. So that being said, which car do you have to get at the minimum level to match this performance? Guys, you have to get a Porsche 911. And this is the insane thing. The base Carrera, like the base starts at $100,000, just under $100,000. But even at $100,000 before options, by the way, like, you know how when you start optioning out Porsches, I mean, you're adding like $20,000 or $30,000 at least. Even with that base Carrera, you're still only getting 380 horsepower compared to this one's 495. Your top speed on the Carrera is like 182 miles an hour compared to the 194 in the C8. And even your 0 to 60 time, which Porsches are amazing at, is 4 seconds compared to 2.9 in the C8. So let's move up a step from the base Carrera to the Carrera S. Is the Carrera S any closer? A little bit, but it's also a lot more expensive. Starting at $113,000, that still is 50 horsepower less than this car, and the 0 to 60 time is still a lot worse than this car. Guys, you have to buy a 718 Cayman to get to the same price range as the C8, and at the 718 Cayman level, you're only at like 300 horsepower. It's like a 5-second 0 to 60. It's nowhere near the performance level of this car. The value proposition of this car is just insane. I don't know how they do it. I kind of do know how they do it. I'll talk about that right now. I was watching a video. The Fastlane did a great review on this car, and they had the chief engineer of the C8 Corvette, and they interviewed him and they asked him, how in the freaking world did they pull off this level of performance for a starting price of $60,000? And he basically answered it with, it's an economies of scale thing. GM being the massive car manufacturing company that they are, he made a great analogy with the airbags.
Because we leverage the scale of General Motors. So as an example, a silly example would be an airbag module. Everybody's got to buy an airbag module. We buy millions of them. So our cost for an airbag module is going to be a lot lower than a bespoke boutique manufacturer. So for every part that a customer doesn't see or touch, we leverage General Motors economy of scale. And that gives us the opportunity to deliver a car that's on par, better from a performance standpoint, and one that comes at a fraction of their price.
For the price point that this car is at, even if you add on like $20,000 in options and you're ending up like at an $80,000 build, it is completely worth it. I want to talk a little bit about how this car does as a daily driver. What's that proposition like? The amount of comfort was one of the very first things I noticed when I first picked up this car. There's literally no reason other than its lack of practicality with obviously just a 2-seat layout. It has a decent amount of storage in the front, and it has a little bit in the back as well, right behind that engine bay. But not talking about the practicality issues, like the comfort level is out of this world in this car. That Magnet Ride suspension helps a ton. You can just have it in tour mode like I have it in now. It's in automatic transmission mode. The shifts, you can barely feel them because of that dual clutch transmission. It's buttery smooth. And then when you get on a freeway on-ramp like I just got on, well, you just put it into track mode. So just getting on the highway here, let's talk about some of its technology, things that really stood out to me. Other than how absolutely easy this car is to drive, when you're just driving it normally like this, it's in tour mode, it's just like, it's so comfortable, you wouldn't even know that you're in this type of performance car. Technology-wise, everything is really user-friendly. The display here where you change all of your settings, you access the audio, your phone, navigation, Wi-Fi, the settings, Apple CarPlay has Android Auto as well. This touchscreen is really responsive. The only real noticeable thing that I do have an issue with is the digital display on the instrument cluster here. It's an awesome 12-inch display, which looks great, but when you switch from mode to mode with this awkward little mode selector knob, it works, but yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, the lag time when you switch from mode to mode, it's like it takes a good 2 full seconds for the screen to switch after you've made the move on the knob. So a little bit of a nitpick there, but it is definitely noticeable. Other than that, let's talk about the steering wheel, which a lot of people gave it some flack because it is not only flat bottom, but it is also flat top. So definitely takes some getting used to. I've never operated a car with a steering wheel of this shape, but it's kind of weird. Like, I guess it really works if you're one of the old school drivers and you have that 10-2 grip. By the way, guys, the 10-2 grip is really outdated. You should not really be driving cars with that grip. It should be the 93, especially if you're driving a performance car like this. Anyway, according to the chief engineer of this car, the C8 Corvette, he says that the reason they made the flat top is so that you get a better visibility over the top of the dash. And so you get better visibility of the instrument cluster here because it is shaped just pretty much the same shape that the instrument cluster is. So I guess I can see that reasoning. Overall, the steering wheel is fine once you get used to it, just like you get used to every other steering wheel. It's great, and obviously the flat bottom is so that you have more legroom if you're a taller person. Another thing I'm a big fan of in this car is the heads-up display. It looks fantastic, and it changes depending on the mode you're in. So I'm in Tour mode right now. It shows me the speed limit and the miles per hour, and obviously the drive mode that I'm in. But as soon as I switch it to Sport, the speed limit goes away, as it should, but you also get this awesome G-force display, a left side and a right side, so you know how many G's you're pulling all the time. And in addition to that, you also get the tachometer display with the miles per hour and the drive mode. And as soon as you change it into track, the tachometer changes its style to more of a race car look, and you get your drive mode, your gear, and the miles per hour. Once you switch over to Sport mode, you get a much more aggressive looking color scheme, which is mostly red and black. And then once you switch over to track mode, things really change a lot. Your tachometer turns into the race style tachometer with a strip at the top. And then you're looking also at a great view of your tire temperature and the tire PSI. It also changes so that up front and center, you see obviously the gear that you're in, your speed, and then on the left side, you have your temperatures, which is always very important when you're driving the car hard. Man, no complaints at all with the information that's accessible on the instrument cluster. They did a really, really good job on that. In terms of visibility out of this car, it is exceptional. They really made good use of this digital display rear view mirror, which I did have to get used to. The first time I glanced over it like that, my eyes went upside down. It was really weird actually. So you do have to get used to it, but once you do, you'll realize that it is actually really helpful and gives you a much better view than if you were without it. This is actually an option and only available on the 2LT and the 3LT packages. So I would definitely recommend that, especially if you have the wing on the back. Visibility out of the front here with that mid-engine change, it really reminds me a lot of the Ferrari 458 view that I get when I'm driving. You can really see those front fenders on both sides if you're tall enough. I'm not quite tall enough to see that side, but I can see this one perfectly on my left side. And then, just the way that the front slopes down, it's a much shorter than the previous car, obviously. So you can really place this car confidently, especially when you're pushing it into a corner. And man, it is a really great feeling because you know exactly where the car is on the road at all times. And if this layout of car is new to you with that very short front end, I can tell you guys that it is and it will be very easy for you to get used to, because it is so easy to see exactly where the car is with this view, especially if you're a taller guy. Man, you're gonna be able to place this car so easily. Visibility using the side view mirrors is totally fine. They do have an interesting shape to them. They have 5 sides to them. They aren't as big as they would be on a normal car, but I have had no issues at all seeing out of those. The one thing I will say, which is not really a negative, but just something I noticed, is that when you're merging to the right lane, you sometimes will do one of those. Well, when you do that in this car, there's literally nothing there. You can't see out of that. There's there's no little window there or anything. So that pillar is completely obstructed. So it's a good thing that they included the blind spot monitoring feature in this car, because that's definitely going to be useful in certain situations. Other than that, absolutely no complaints about technology-wise and visibility-wise and the interior of the cabin. I will talk about the fit and finish, but overall the fit and finish, just looking at it first glance, looks awesome. Chevy knew that they had to up their game when it came to the interior level of quality of this car, and they definitely proved that. They did that. When you first take a look into this cabin for the first time, it reminds you of supercars. I'll say it. It is the way that they did the dash, these floating elements that you see, this is something out of Lamborghini, honestly. It is really cool to look at. And I mean, if you look really close at certain things, there was something about the stitching on this side of the dashboard where it's slightly just out of line, or it's kind of uneven. I can kind of see some of that, but it's not really a big deal. For a starting price of $60,000, you cannot ask for more. Great job, Chevy, on the interior. You definitely answered the call of your customers in improving the interior of a Corvette, and man, you guys knocked it out of the park. All right guys, so winding down this video, my 2 days spent with this car, the 2020 C8 Corvette Stingray. Man, I think if I had one word to use to describe my experience with it, that word would be impressed or impressive. This car is impressive for what you get for the price. There is literally no better value on the market today for a sports car, close to a supercar. This car has blown me away, especially when you drive this car hard in a proper road. Good job, guys. Good job, Chevy. Good job, GM. You guys knocked it out of the park. I'm very, very impressed. And I cannot wait to see what you guys do with the Z06 and the ZR1. So you can definitely count on me reviewing those cars as well once they come out. But with that, if you enjoyed watching, please give this video a like. It's gonna help the channel out a lot. It's gonna help YouTube show this video to more people. So if you liked it, please give it a like. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, guys, I will see you very soon. Deuces.